This is the Archangel 2210 here to give you a review slash unofficial comparison of the Watchmen graphic novel versus movie. Now, I'll admit I don't actually have it on DVD, but I have seen it in the movie theaters, and I'll just leave it at that. And I've read the book. Now, in my personal opinion, you really can't watch the movie without reading the book. That's just my personal opinion, because you're going to miss a whole bunch of stuff that's not even mentioned in the movie. You know, besides side characters and certain origins, which kind of does seem important, and alrighty. Now, The Watchmen is a very beloved and classic graphic novel for many years. It's always been like the number one graphic novel in Wizard magazine, and I always saw it and I was like, that always, what is that? What is The Watchmen? The Watchmen, And then when I saw the trailer come out, I was like, oh, that looks kind of interesting. So I was like, let me read the book first, and basically to get to see the story and see what everything. And I was like, oh, this looks like this is a really awesome story. Now, when reading the book, it takes about like probably 13 hours or so to read the book, or less, depending if you like reading straight through or not. You go into every character, and they really build up every character, and you get to know and love every character, including the side characters, that really aren't part of the main storyline. You get to know them and almost care about them, so that way when they actually die at the end, this isn't a spoiler because someone must have read the book or seen the movie by now. If when all those characters die at the end, you feel it, and it's like, oh shoot, I wasn't expecting that. But in the movie, it just kind of happens at the end. The silhouette is exactly the same as the book. Kudos for you, but Mr. Director. But since we did not see them in the movie previously, it means nothing. It has no significance to the first, because guaranteed, not everyone has seen the movie after reading the book. Not everyone has, and people that have not read the book, it's not going to hit them the same way. And it's not like, even if you like, oh, we do the right music and we do this and we do it in slow motion, you could do all your tricks and gimmicks and do all your things, but if you don't know the full story, it's not going to really hit you. Now, I'm not dissing him as a director. This isn't a rant, so don't be sending nasty comments. Oh, you don't know what you're talking. Okay, I'm not ranting him as a director. I'm just saying I felt like the story, like in order to get all the stories out, it should have been maybe a trilogy. Not saying part 1 and 2, but like, part 1 could have been like the first few chapters, and part 2 could have been the next few chapters, and part 3 could have been the ending. That, or maybe even make it a HBO miniseries, and have it be several episodes, maybe 2 seasons or so, like 13, like, I don't know, like, I think that would have worked better opposed to it being a one-note movie just to get some money. The soundtrack was really great. I really liked the soundtrack. The visuals were really nice, and I really liked the directing, but I felt he could have eased up on some of the slow motion. Just a little bit. Just like some scenes, I kind of feel like he was like at a coin toss for some scenes. He was like, okay, I could either have slow motion for this scene, or I could put other side characters that weren't even mentioned yet. And he always went for the slow motion every time. And that's what it was like. In the end, you kind of ripping the fans off, from putting the whole story in there. Now, on to the actual characters. I loved lots of the characters. I mean, I really like Night Owl, and um, I like Rorschach, but he's really hardcore. He's really like woo, like he goes really far, and I can understand his logic into he basically takes matters into he doesn't take him to the authorities. He just goes and he finishes it himself, and it's like wow, he is just he just goes for the gusto. And Rorschach, for if no one really knows who Rorschach is, take visually the Question from DC Universe, who basically wears a fedora, a faceless mask, and like the old trench coat, 1940s type of detective, and take Batman's personality, kicked up a notch, maybe 10 notches, and then you got Rorschach. Because he doesn't, cause he kills the guy. He does not give him to the cops like any other superhero. Like he just kills the guy. He's like, forget you, sir. I'm gonna just get you off now. So I was like, oh, okay. Now, but I can understand his logic. I'm not, dissing the character or anything. I could it's like that character's just like he don't play. Now, Night Owl, one of my favorite characters. He basically is like a Batman character. Basically inspired by Batman, the gadgets and everything. And now I liked his costume better in the comic, and I'll explain why. In the comic, it looked like an owl. The mask was shaped like an owl head. The cape was shaped like the body of an owl, and it looked like an owl because he was Night Owl. Okay. Now, in the movie, they had the owl motif, the owl ship, and it looked like the costume to an extent, but they changed the helmet or the mask to look more like Batman, and they changed the cape to look more like Batman, which I could understand why, but it's like you're just trying to confuse people to make it seem like it's a Batman character, which it kind of is, but it's not Batman. Don't confuse people and making it think like, oh, it's another version of Batman. It's a completely separate character that's inspired by Batman, okay? So I like I like the look of the costume of the material, but I didn't like the fact that they redesigned it that much to completely looks like a different character. Silk Spectre, on the other hand, oddly enough, I actually like the movie version of Silk Spectre. Some people were probably like, how dare you? But actually, yeah, I kind of like the movie version of both Silk Spectres 1 and 2. It just looks a little bit more covered, a little more polished, a little more modern. And the second one, because the second one's basically just a silk little. I know now the name doesn't make any sense for the second one because she's called Silk Spectre and she's wearing latex, so that the name itself doesn't make sense. And they had to change a line of dialogue that when she was talking to Night Owl in a dinner. So I kind of see why that part doesn't make sense for some people. But visually, the suit does look nice. The suit looks more like a superhero costume that you would see, like you can market for Comic-Con and all that stuff, and it looks like a superhero. And I really like the costume. And I liked Silk Spectre 1 and 2 because I feel like they remind me a lot of Black Canary 1 and 2 from the DC Universe. Now, even though this is owned by DC Comics and it's published by DC Comics, it's not in the DC Universe. These characters are not in the DC Universe in that you're not going to see the Watchmen fighting alongside the Justice League anytime soon. Impossible, ain't going to happen. Because this takes place in an alternate 80s timeline. It doesn't take place in... It takes place in our reality, but a parallel 1980s timeline. So, there you go. Now, in the book, they really go into every character's backstory. With Silk Spectre, with Dr. Manhattan, with Rorschach, with Night Owl, with the other... Oh, man, what was his name? Oh, shoot. Oh, the really fruity villain. I feel terrible now that I don't know his name. think it starts with a V. Anywho, you know who I'm talking about. It's just I'm bad with names. Now they completely skipped his backstory in the movie, and when he's like this all powerful guy, and they're all fighting him, and he's like overtaking all of them. Someone watching that movie for the first time, not reading the book, they're going to be like, "Huh? How is he that powerful? How is he doing that?" They explain in the book, but in the movie, you get bupkis. They don't explain squat. Like, and I thought they were actually going to show, like, him giving them the tranquilizer in the drinks, and then they were in the botanical garden, and then he was going to open the door, and they were going to, he was going to basically freeze them to death. And I guess the time or whatever, they didn't do that. They had it where he just dissolves them in the thing. I thought that was stupid. I felt towards the end they were kind of scrambling for an ending. They were just kind of scrambling, and they just kind of they changed quite a bit. They changed quite a bit in my personal opinion. This is my opinion. Like, visually, the movie was great. The movie was fantastic. All standing alone, by itself. If you watch the movie by itself, standing alone, not comparing it to anything, the movie is a great film. Still slightly empty, but a great film. But if you compare it to the original source material, the graphic novel of the Watchmen, it feels like it's missing something. You could tremendously feel like the movie's missing something. Like, it's good, but not great. And it's kind of a shame, because it's probably the only movie interpretation we're going to get of the Watchmen. And it was half good. It felt like the imagery was great, the lighting and everything was great, the costume designs were great, the music was great, a fantastic soundtrack. I would have recast Silk Spectre 2, in my opinion. Whatever her name is, she's Swedish, she's blonde in real life. Alan, whatever her name is, I don't know. She was also in 27 Dresses and all that stuff. Her acting was kind of flat. They just got her because she was just some skinny, cute girl. They could have gotten anybody else. They should have just gotten somebody else, someone that could actually act, and that looked a little bit older, maybe. She looked like she was maybe 22. Okay, maybe 25 or 28. But I thought she was kind of plain of an actress. She really she didn't bring it. Like, she didn't really bring it, in my opinion. They just got her because she was someone pretty to look at. And I'm gonna go on a little tangent right here for just a brief second about casting a beautiful woman in a comic book movie strictly because they're a beautiful woman, not because they're good for the movie. Case in point, casting Halle Berry as Storm for all 3 X-Men movies. And some people would say Kirsten Dunst for Spider-Man. Like, that those were like the 2 big flaws in the comic universe. They're pretty to look at, but not the best choice. Anyway, graphic novel is a great graphic novel. I suggest anyone, this graphic novel is a must-have. Any comic book fan, any superhero fan, it's a great story. It's a fantastic story. It is 17 and up because there is nudity and graphic stuff and everything, drinking and all that stuff. But that aside, it is a great story. It's a great read. It's a fantastic story, and I suggest getting the book over getting the movie. If you really want to check out the movie, which, you know what, it is good to at least watch the movie at least once, rent it. The Watchmen movie is a rental. I hate saying the Watchmen movie, it's good, not great. I would probably give it a 6 out of 10. maybe that's kind of generous. Like it's great. It's visually, it's a great film. I think someone said this best. It was a gourmet looking film, but it served us a fast food ending. It wasn't like we were hyped up for this great Watchmen film, and it really didn't really deliver. So, in point, the graphic novel is a must-have, must-have. Gotta get this graphic novel. Like I got mine at Barnes and Noble when the movie came out. So Barnes and Noble, comic book store, any place that books are sold, get the Watchmen graphic novel. It is awesome. And the movie, after you read the book, I would say rent it. Don't buy it because it's a lot of money. I would say rent it at the library. You could rent it for free. So just rent it after you've seen the movie. After you've read the book, rent the movie. And because the movie's like, I would kind of give it a 5 actually. Now that I think about it, a 5 out of 10. I hate saying that because it's a good story, but it's a 5 out of 10. I'm sorry. 5 out of 10. It's a rental for the Watchmen movie, a must-have for the book. So that's all I have to say for now. Please subscribe to my channel, Archangel2210, for more reviews, rants, and random silliness. And leave a comment below what you think about, if you've seen the movie, did you like the movie, or if you read the book, what you thought of the book, and what you thought of either one. If you thought you liked the book more, you liked the movie more, just be perfectly honest. You don't. So I'm just signing off for now.